Oh, hello everyone. How are we all today, tonight, this morning, wherever you are? It's me. Um, let's try that again. It's me. I know it's wrong here. Let me do this again. I know it's like 2:30 in the morning here, so didn't quite get it right. So I'm back. Hi guys. I know a lot of you are. Why are you still up, Tony? It's like 2:30 where you are, which is where I am. Anyway, um, so not too long ago, I did a form check, and but not too long ago. That was like what 6 hours ago. So I did a form check, just earlier. And it was a pretty good form check. These live streams are getting a lot more interesting. Our reflections, our Q&As, and our form checks are getting a lot more interactive. So there's a lot of good things happening, and I'm really happy to see this going on. Of course, if you missed out on the form check, just check my latest video that went through about four different archery form checks. And of course, if you want to send in your form check, then just send me an email or a link to your video, and we'll happily go through it and talk through parts of your process. But it turns out that I'm not the only one doing these form checks. For those who follow World Archery, either their YouTube channel or their social media like Facebook or Twitter, you may be aware that World Archery, so with the camera by the way, World Archery has launched their new series. They run several, they run mini series on YouTube, but there are several community ones. One of them is Shoot Like Me. That's more focused on professional archers, and they talk through their shot process and what they think of when they shoot. And I was fortunate enough to be involved in that. I was asked by World Archery to do a special Shoot Like Me guest appearance, which is really cool. At least I think so anyway. Not that I shoot very well, but I focus more on the psychological side of archery. That was Shoot Like Me. They recently started doing more my range, I believe they call it. So different artists around the world will talk about their own club or their own range, which is an interesting community spotlight. And the latest addition is hashtag coach me. So if you haven't seen it, I'm not going to show it to you because it's their videos. I'm not going to go through each one, but I'll show you the playlist. So this is what they've just recently launched. So they have it's a season. I imagine they'll be doing several of these. So they've invited several pro archers. In this case, we have Crispin Dunas, Sven Vandenberg from the Netherlands, Christmas from Canada, and Lisa Unruh from Germany. And these are all very good archers. These are top level archers who frequently compete at international level. Crispin especially has done a lot of education material for World Archery, and Swift has been involved in quite a few spotlight videos for World Archery as well. So they've gotten these three independently to review footage of people who sit in videos, and they give their professional opinion on what they can improve. And so far, there are three of these. There's 3 episodes. There's one featuring Leah Allen, one featuring Miguel Brito, and one featuring Ashley Dory. That's Ashley Dory over there. So the purpose of this is to, of course, get feedback from pro archers on what to improve. Now, this may look familiar, right? And in fact, if you look at the comments from the first video, I think Rob Smith posted a nice little funny comment. I like this one; it's great. So, here you go, Rob Smith. Hey, you pinch NUSensei's format, but I like it. This is funny, and I might take the offer to send in a form video to World Archery to get their feedback. But I thought it's quite funny. I guess, and am I the first one who's done this? I'm pretty sure I'm not. I'm sure other people have done form check videos, but I guess I'm the only one that's done form check live streams. I mean, I've only done it for the last 6 months, I guess. I've done a few form check videos, but it's the live streams which have been the unique format. I don't think anyone does a live stream with archery, and there's a lot of value. Whoops, sorry. There's a lot of value in this. The ability to give people advice online, especially people who don't have the opportunities to do this in person with a coach. So it's good to see World Archery put themselves out there by offering what is basically a free service with the stars of the sport, which is awesome. I mean, these people are obviously trained very hard, they're very experienced, and many of them are very good mentors to archers who are up and coming potential Olympians and world athletes. So this video is going to be a discussion about what value the Coach Me series could bring to archery. I also want to share some critical thoughts over the merits of Coach Me, as well as share my experience with doing this sort of thing. I've been doing this for a bit longer than what archery has, I mean, in terms of the format. Um, there are a few things which I've learnt over the last few months, if not years, when it comes to doing this sort of form analysis on the online forum. And I want to kind of bring this out for discussion with you guys, see what you guys think about the live form checks as well as what World Archery does, because they do very different things. I do very long live discussions. World Archery does like 5 minute spotlight videos for easy consumption. So there are very different styles here. And again, I think the thing is, I want to share my experience in, I guess, coaching people online and kind of what challenges and shortcomings there are with this format. Now, before we begin, I want to remind you all that World Archery does have a rule about camouflage, so I'm going to start off by taking off this, and then we'll get straight into discussion. So, let's begin. Now, I guess the main thing with form check videos, I want to point out firstly that all the videos are very good. Like the fact that you have three different professional archers, they talk about similar things, but each of them will spot certain things. And as a coach, I was quite interested and curious about the sort of things they'll look out for. Because when I watch a video, I will spot certain things immediately, and there are some things which I'll spot on a second or third viewing. And watching these guys do the same sort of thing was actually really interesting to see them walk through a mindset. And I think one of the hidden bonuses of this series is the value to coaches, more so than the archers. I mean, the goal for my form check videos is that we learn from each other. So you learn from my experience, and I can learn from your experience. So there's a mutual learning experience for everyone involved in a live form check and the discussion we just had during and after the form check videos. So that's one thing to see is I think we all benefit, but the what we see in these videos is one person getting a lot of feedback, and the coaches who might be watching a similar sort of thing can learn what a pro archer will spot and what they need to improve on. So there's an extra benefit which might not be the primary intent, but it is something which comes on top of that. But the downside to this, I think one of the potential negative aspects or the areas of weakness or improvement is what kind of people send in videos. Now, for what I do, I basically accept any video, and in the past few months, I've covered everything from like 3 weeks of beginning archery to several months of traditional Eastern Asian style archery to Olympic style archery. So I cover a pretty wide range of archery. And that's completely fine. And bear in mind, this is a free service. I do this when I feel like it, as there's no charge involved. If you don't like it, you can have your money back. So there's no demand. There's no expectation. Whatever you send me, I'll review. I'll look at. I'll give you some advice. But having done so, I follow certain protocols and certain rules, at least my own rules, when it comes to giving advice. Because this is actually a problem I feel with certain aspects of the archery community, where individuals, on the basis of being a good archer or having experience, may not have the right approach when it comes to supporting new archers coming up. because the more you know, the harder it is to teach someone who doesn't know. And there's an inherent problem with this. Now, I'm not saying that the professional archers involved in the series have this problem. Some people might perceive that, but I don't think this is a big problem. I've seen all 3 episodes and they're pretty fair. But the issue, I think, is the proximity of skill level. And the reason why I say this is some of the people who might be sending in videos might not need professional level advice. This is the thing. So I want to quickly watch the first episode featuring Miss Allen. I don't want to critique the form check. That we were like doing a form check on a form check, which is form checkception, which I don't want to get my head around. But let's watch. I want to show you the kind of arches which I've submitted so far. So this is Leah Allen's shot process. I'll keep the sound off. You can see the style she has. And from my experience, this is perhaps like several months of shooting, so it's not thing. And the feedback they give is, she's a little tense. That the back tension isn't very strong, and more notably, she doesn't respond to the clicker. So it clicks as she forces the shot. That's the feedback they give. So that's the first episode featuring Leah Allen. The second episode features Miguel. And this is a slow motion video. A very, very slow motion video. I think it was submitted as slow motion. And the feedback they gave him was that they pointed out that he seems to visually check everything in every step. And therefore he should, on a recommendation, speed up the process, feel the shot more, rather than physically check everything. And the last one is from Ashley Dory, who seems to be the most experienced shooter of the bunch. And his process is actually a lot cleaner. And the feedback they gave him was mostly about the tension in his hand. His string hand has a very noticeable tension, especially his pinky finger. If we zoom in, his pinky finger is actually curled up, and it's kind of extended. So everyone's watching his pinky finger, which is interesting. So I think he's the most competent of the three so far, and probably the most experienced and accomplished of the three. So in my mind, in seeing this, we have Leah, who is, I guess, in the starting out phase, the beginning, the intermediate phase. We have someone who's in the intermediate phase, and someone who's more in the intermediate to advanced phase. So we have 3 different levels. So the question this brings is, who would coach me benefit most? The beginner, the intermediate, or the advanced? When you have a professional archer who, or several professionals who have been asked to volunteer their time to provide advice, who benefits the most? So here's the thing with the spread of submissions. In my opinion, I think Ashley, our advanced archer, would probably be the most interesting video to watch. That's episode 3 so far. And the reason why Ashley is the most interesting to watch is because he's the best one of the lot. And the reason why this is a point to note is that you kind of want to, for people learning archery, you want to learn what good archers do. And he's a good archer. You can see from the still image, his form is solid, his process is very good, and it's only a couple of small things. But the things that these are small things that these are common problems. They're not uncommon. They're not like things that everyone goes through. So looking at people with slightly peculiar form faults or areas of improvement and getting feedback from top archers would be very interesting, because these are things which even I haven't encountered yet, and I find as a coach and an archer this is very interesting. Watching Ashley shoot and seeing top archers critique Ashley's form, this is particularly interesting to me. Now, if we go down to Leah's video, episode 1, which is the most recent upload for some reason, but episode 1, So the thing with Leah's shooting is that I find that it's kind of rudimentary feedback. And this is where I probably interject with my experience in doing live form checks. The thing with people just starting out, and this is again on not just my live form checks, but on forums like Reddit, for example, where people who just start out will ask for advice on their form, and they've only been doing it for like a few weeks. The thing with the first few weeks or months of archery, you don't really need pro advice. What you need is someone with a strong understanding of fundamentals to walk you through it. And this is what anyone can do. Any instructor, any coach, and any experienced archer has the knowledge and the experience to show someone how to shoot the basic steps. And when you're starting out after 2 or 3 months, you're still in that beginner period where you're still learning how to use a sight, you're learning how to use a clicker, you're learning about back tension, and these are things which every archer who goes past that point will know. Hey Rob, I looked at your comment, by the way. This is why I'm doing it, for your comment. So this is for you, Rob. So cheers. Yeah, sorry guys, this is a surprise stream. It's 2:30 here. 240. But we're in the middle of talking about the World Archery hashtag Coach Me series. So for those just joining me, what I said before was that at the moment there are 3 episodes. They each feature a different level of archer, from what I think. There's beginner, intermediate, and there's an advanced archer. And so far, the Advanced Archer, episode 3, featuring Ashley, is the most interesting because it picks out a very specific problem which even I haven't seen in my live streams and my form checks. I know the problem exists. If I saw it, I'd say the exact same thing, which is interesting to see everyone can kind of have a unanimous agreement. But that was the most interesting. Whereas the one featuring Leah, episode 1, I felt was less interesting because it's a much lower level of proficiency. She isn't bad, so this isn't something really poor to form. But to me it wasn't as interesting because it's kind of what I deal with as a coach daily, or weekly in my club, and of course on a more on a wider forum on the internet with the form check videos. So I find that one to be interesting, but not as interesting. This episode 2 featuring Miguel is interesting. I have a thing about slow motion which gets to me though. We watch Miguel's again. Miguel's slow motion video. The reason why I dislike, firstly, it's like a whole minute long. Like they're just watching the first shot. That's when he finally shoots. So I think into the format, like World Archery really goes for. Actually, no, that's not. I'll take it back. The first shot is like 30 seconds. So we see the it takes a while. Yeah, it's actually nearly a whole minute. I'll take it back. Yeah, it's nearly a whole minute before things actually kick off. So I mean, World Archery really make like short, snappy videos which are worth watching. Okay, this is more Inception stuff, right? So we're watching someone do a slow motion shot process for 60 seconds, and that means you are watching an archer do a slow motion shot process. I don't like the slow motion. When people send me videos, I like it when there's an option to slow it down, or to give me a variety. They have regular speed and slow motion rather than just slow motion. The difficulty I have with slow motion is that it's hard for me to tell the actual tempo of the shot. People have a certain rhythm they follow, so when you slow down and you don't tell me how much to slow down by, it's kind of hard to see the actual shot unfold. And this is actually a problem with they talk about things like the World Cup right now with the video assistant referee. Slow motion changes the way we perceive things. What are basically reflex actions or just minor habits? when you slow down to like a quarter speed, it looks like everything is perfectly intentional. That I think is a bit of a problem. Um, so having something slow down to that extent is useful when you're viewing it initially. Oh, actually, no. I think that if you're doing deep analysis, it's useful. But when it comes to initial viewing, I prefer a regular speed shot because I can tell problems, and I'd rather replay the same shot several times rather than watch a single slow motion shot because it's very hard to identify specific things in a shot process when it's slow motion. Like you can see, oh yeah, this is too low. There's too much tension here. There's too much or not enough tension here, and so on. But a problem is that when stats slow, it's hard to tell what is intentional and what is accidental or subconscious. So that's one of the things which I think World Archery you might consider when taking submissions is to perhaps think about getting a regular speed video or a combination of regular and normal speed and maybe a slow motion video. I think slow motion by itself isn't good form check material, just from my experience. Again, coaches might do this for deeper analysis, but for a 4 minute spotlight, then slow motion actually doesn't work too well in my opinion. Um, so yeah, I think that's kind of where we're at. So we've covered firstly what value does it have. I think it adds value to the archer, other archers, but especially coaches, because it gives us some insight as to what to give feedback on and what to watch out for when teaching other people. I think some of the weaknesses are that the potential gain is looking at people who are fairly competent, and they need professional. These are people who actually need someone better than them to guide them to the next level. I think that's what the best potential gain is. When someone who is already exceeded past the beginner stage needs that extra boost from someone to help them out. I think it is of less value to a beginner archer or intermediate archer because the problems that a typical beginner has or an intermediate archer will go through can be addressed at basically any level. You don't need world archery and professional archers to tell you what you're doing wrong. I guess if you have no other source of knowledge or information, then this is actually an invaluable tool. And I think this is a really good thing. But I'm not sure how much work World Archery will do to produce more of this series. Are they going to involve the same three archers? Will they involve other archers? How much time is being taken away from these professional archers to do sort of thing? Because it's quite normal for top level athletes in other sports to do media appearances and stuff to represent the sport and grow the sport. That's quite normal, and I think it's great to see professional artists do this. But is this going to be too much information too soon for someone who is starting out? Because again, look at for example Leah. These are things which her coach, if she has one, might point out to her. And it might validate again having multiple sources corroborate and agree on certain things is going to be a good thing. It validates everybody, so everyone benefits from that. But I think, as I said before, I think we perhaps World Archery might want to filter the submissions. I'm not sure how many they're getting, but they might want to filter the submissions to have the right sort of form check for the professionals to look at and evaluate. That makes it interesting. Again, for me, what I do, I have no I don't discriminate on submission. So I don't care if you're a beginner or you're a pro. I'll tell beginners the basics of what to improve on. I'll point out 2 or 3 things in like intermediate shooters, and for the advanced shooters, I'm like, fine, just keep doing what you're doing. So it's pretty easy for me to not judge people. But what archery might have to be more selective in picking out interesting videos. Like someone has an interesting quirk or an interesting form fault that they can spotlight and use pro archers to give feedback on that one particular thing. So there are a few areas here. What you missed out here, Bubbly Book and Chalasa, I'm doing a form check on form checks. So we're talking about World Archery. So again, I'll just do go over quickly for those joining me. So we have the series Coach Me from World Archery. And I'm covering this because, as Rob pointed out in the comments, it's a very similar format to what I do. And difference is, of course, they actually have competent archers covering the form checks. So they've got Swift Vandenberg, Lisa Unra, and Crispin Dunas. So they're doing independent form checks on people who submitted videos. And of course, with either my form checks, people submit videos to me and I do form checks. I'm not exactly the best archer in the world, but I give just the feedback people need to give. And at that, we're just evaluating where it's at. And we've covered so far. I think that it's a good idea. It's a great way to engage the community and to kind of bridge the gap between pro archers and learners and the rest of us, which is really good. I think they need to be selective in picking the right kind of videos to evaluate. So I think all the videos so far are really good quality into capturing the right thing. But I also think that they need to kind of think about who would benefit from watching these form checks. Because it's not just the archer who benefits, but the coaches who might watch and learn about what to observe. Yeah, so I think we need to think about, like, is there going to be some kind of quality control, I guess, in terms of form checks? Like, do you have to be a certain, or should there be a requirement that you have to shoot for a certain number of months or have certain competencies? I don't know. I'm not saying that you must be good to submit a form check. That's ridiculous. That's gonna ruin the whole point of it. But I think one problem which World Archery might have in the future, if they don't already have this problem, is like the absolute beginners who have only done it for like less than 3 months, sending in form checks. And from my experience doing form checks, and people send in like form checks and they've only done it for several weeks, the problems are just basics, the fundamentals which any coach, any instructor can cover, and you don't need a pro archer to tell you what to do. It's kind of like, imagine like like if you play soccer and you have the chance to learn from like a really good player like Messi or Ronaldo or anyone else, okay? Or if you can learn basketball from Kobe Bryant or LeBron James. I mean, like, if they have certain star value, so they can, like, I mean, sure, kids would love to have a celebrity come in and teach them how to play, but do you need a professional player to teach basics? And that's kind of what I'm getting at with this very kind of long-winded evaluation. Do people really enjoy watching professionals rip into beginners? That's the thing. I think that's a line which World Archery might want to be careful with treading. I have no problem with this line because I ripped at everybody, so it doesn't matter who sends in videos. I'm quite happy to evaluate and give feedback to most people, and that's great. But I do this as a regular feature on my channel. If World Archery want to make a season out of this, then like, what if they get like 50 like beginner submissions, and believe me, you start seeing the same thing over and over again, and it becomes a bit less kind of like, you lose engagement when people say, oh, it's another beginner shooting a bare bow, or that sort of thing. So it's a bit monotonous sometimes. Again, trust me, as someone who's done this for quite a while, I love doing this because, look, I'm a high school teacher. I literally do the same thing every day. Like, I teach, like, day after day, month after month, year after year. I'm doing the same thing or similar things. So I'm used to repetition. I'm used to teaching the same thing to different people over and over again. But for a YouTube series, would this be interesting to kind of watch a season where you teach a bunch, like a handful of people, and then after a few episodes or a few seasons, it's basically the same thing over and over again? Is that going to be interesting to people? That's what I'm curious. So yeah, for those just joined me, I'm just going through my head about my initial thoughts about the series that World Archery is starting. I think mostly it's positive. I think it's really good to get World Archery on board to teach people and to get professional archers involved. And they've been doing some live streams and Q&As on their Facebook page. So there's a lot of they're making a lot of effort to engage the community more, which is great. It's good to see the international organization try to help grow the sport on the internet, which is a very big source for many people today, especially, which is really good. Which is really good. But the flip side is a series like Coach Me can have some immediate successes. Like people go, "Wow, this is a really good idea." Um, but like you have to be mindful of evaluating the extent of how interesting this would be to people. I mean, the reality is that if an archer just wanted feedback, they don't need to be public. And that's why people, I mean, a lot of people ask me and send me photos and videos and say, can you give me feedback? And sure, I'll type up a few lines. And for a lot of people, that's all you need really is a few words of advice to take them in the right direction or a live demonstration of some sort. So that's something which benefits people. But people who are serious about feedback won't need to make a series, a web series about this. So creating a web series around training and live form checks or getting feedback from pro archers needs to consider who would want to watch this. The archer themselves who submit, they benefit to an extent, yes. But the other people who watch who are into archery will also benefit to an extent by watching out for certain form faults. And again, coaches and instructors might benefit from looking at certain problems. Because again, but we don't see a lot of things. And even as coaches who go through training, certification, beyond what we directly see at our club, we don't get the chance to really examine and evaluate other archers, apart from what we see directly. So having this sort of format can be quite interesting for coaches as well. And I do recommend those who are interested in coaching or instructing actually check out some of these videos. I'm sure there'll be more in the future. But yeah, my concluding thoughts are there are certain risks and shortcomings which I've either encountered myself or I it doesn't affect me as much because I do this as a regular thing, and I have no like benchmark in terms of what people should and shouldn't do. But I've also come across certain problems as perhaps the only person doing live form checks. Yeah, because yeah, like when you interact with a large range of people, you come across certain patterns and habits and trends, and that also comes across sometimes as the challenge is like making sure you pitch the feedback at the right level, both for the learner, the person submitting the video, as well as people watching, so that you can connect much easier. So yeah, it's cool. I'm looking forward to seeing more of the series. I quite like where it's going. I quite like the direction that World Archery is taking these community projects. So things like My Range, Shoot Like Me, and Coach Me. Some interesting ideas. Always interesting seeing innovation and new things run the same old same old. I think it's a good series. But yeah, I make no claim to I have no monopoly over form checks, and I'm sure there are people who can do it much better than I can. But I've been doing it for longer, so again, there are things that I've come across, which maybe World Archery, in organising this series, might also come across in the future. Sorry, I wasn't reading the chat there for a moment. Some things there. A retracted message. That's very helpful. mm. Sorry, green juice. Yeah, I agree, Casual Brett. Yeah, no, see, as coaches, I find it's very interesting. I mean, I've had the benefit of running my club for several years now. I've actually let go of many of my instructing roles because we've had a pretty big injection of new instructors out of club. So I've been able to step back and mentor people more directly rather than teaching the beginners. I love teaching beginners because the beginners, they're all fresh, they're all keen. I want to share my excitement for archery. And look, when people get excited, you get excited, and vice versa. So sometimes teaching beginners can really reinvigorate your passion for archery. When you do the same thing over and over again, you might lose the connection, you might lose why you find archery fun and exciting. So going back to the basics and teaching that can be very rewarding for many people. At the same time, though, again, you don't really need like a really good archer to teach beginners. Beginners just need to be taught again the fundamentals of how to shoot, point out some obvious flaws and areas of improvement, and have fun. So I feel that that like make sure having the right people deployed in the right places is very important. Which is connected to the point I made earlier about is it worth getting these professional archers to give feedback on beginners? Is that really the best value we get for our time investment in watching this? I think a pro archer who can give like mentoring advice to someone who might be, a few degrees away from them. Like, I guess it's not really like. Let's think of tiers, right? Let's say the current world archers who are competing in World Cups and Olympic Games. Let's say they're tier one. All right. Tier one giving feedback on other tier one doesn't make a lot of sense to me because they're all kind of equal. I mean, I'm sure they all love watching each other and critiquing and learning from each other, but it doesn't make much sense to for a top archer to submit a form check to another top archer and do this publicly. It's more of a couch session rather than a feedback session. Perhaps 1 to 1.5, so like not quite current top level. Perhaps I think if we go from let's try again. So the top tier one, is current international champion level. You have tier like 1.5, which is like the basic the reserves for international level. You have tier 2, which is advanced but not yet international. They're getting there. You have like tier 3, which is what's called intermediate, and you have to say tier 4, which is beginner level. And I don't want to say like how much time you spend because like people advance at different rates. But I think like when you have more than 2 tiers of separation from the learner and the teacher, you lose value because if you're a master archer and you have someone who's never held a bow before, you're teaching them basics like how to hold a bow, and you don't get the most out of their wisdom and experience. Again, you wouldn't hire a professional coach to teach a high school team as a beginner session. Like the first people who can't like dribble like a basketball won't benefit from a professional coach. They need like a high school teacher, a gym teacher, to teach them the basics. That's kind of what we're at with archery. So I think that if World Archery's Coach Me series maybe puts emphasis on the intermediate archers who need that injection to help them improve, that might be perhaps the optimal level of gain. Whereas if top archers critique like beginner archers, that may be kind of less engaging and less meaningful for the learner. Anyway, that's my initial thoughts. No, I don't want to drag it out to be like a long live stream, but I was just kind of curious what you think. Some of you have had the chance to see this. I've seen all 3 episodes so far. There's like 5 minutes each. They're really quick to watch. But it's interesting to see someone else doing form checks, especially if people actually know what they're talking about. That's a pretty big benefit from everybody, for everybody in the archery community. That's what I think. So again, my 3 points are generally very good. I found my second point already. Generally very good. Might be interesting to see if we have what variety of form check videos we'll see from World Archery. And from my end, I've come across a few challenges having done live form checks for a while, and there are certain things which you have to be mindful of, I guess, for anyone doing this sort of thing in the future. I mean, there's no reason why I should be the only one doing this. I want like more coaches to do this. I mean, you're asking a lot from people who volunteer their time. I mean, look, I spend like 1 to 2 hours per form check live stream going through form checks and just going to detail and learning and people sending more form checks. It's a huge time commitment. And people like me can't sustain that, so seeing people with experience and qualifications and credentials and people who train top level stuff, that might be interesting as well. I fill in a niche. I do a lot of the beginner stuff and intermediate stuff. And like a lot of beginners don't really need a lot of high level feedback. But I guess like people like me, like myself, like I might benefit from like a coach me because I do certain things well and certain things poorly, and it takes a trained eye to spot the things which more experienced artists do. Especially people who are trying to break into the top tier. I mentioned before the 4 or 5 tiers. So people like tier 3 trying to make the tier 2 to state or national level, they need a bit more of an injection. Whereas someone who's at like bottom tier trying to make the club level might not benefit from a very good coach. I mean, coaching in general is very interesting. Just thinking about like for a lot of sports like tennis or golf or badminton, like you really need a top level coach to teach you to do the sport. You might need a good coach or a good player to guide you to become like a good performer, but to become proficient, don't really need a coach for that. But that's my opinion. I think having access to guidance of any sort is a good thing. So, like I said, those are my initial thoughts. What do you think, people? What do you think about the World Archery Coach Me series? Different format to what I do, of course. They have a much more tightly edited sequence, so it's shorter, more to the point, and features three experts, three current professional archers at world level. I do like 2 hour live streams where I rant on about shoulders popping up and not anchoring and shooting too quickly. So very different things here. But what do you look for in form checks? I mean, like, why do you watch coaching? Why do you watch form checks? And what do you think? Hmm. I'm sure someone from World Archery is watching this. I will watch this at some point. Um, if you have anything interesting to say, post in the chat, post in the comments. If you're watching this as a VOD, any feedback would be really good. I mean, those are my thoughts. And the whole 40 minutes has been my thoughts, which is generally positive. I think it's a good thing. But there might be some problems in the midterm to long term if this persists. Just from my experience doing this personally. Mm. Yeah, Guillermo, I agree. I have no idea how many submissions they get. So I think I heard about this a few months ago, but I didn't really follow it up, and now they're actually launching it. So I'm not sure how popular it would be. Oh yeah, Rob, I agree. Like this is different because but I mean the part of the appeal of a live stream is not the actual learning. The learning's a bonus. It's most the person, and that's why World Archer can't do this, because you need someone with that following or that charisma or that personality or the right persona at least to do this sort of thing. So it's kind of like what I do. They're live streams, yes, but they almost come out like podcast. These are things you can probably like pop up and listen to, and fall asleep to, rather than like watch. Apart from the visual references, and so on. I mean, I can sit back at 3 a.m. and just chat with you guys. So it's kind of like a different sort of thing. Whereas like I know I've thought about doing. I have done like edited videos of form checks before, but the reason why I didn't make them or like make a deal with them is that it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of effort to produce videos to it only benefits one person, right? I mean, like if like, for example, if I might get like 5 requests for form checks a week, being generous here, and I could make a video going through like a 5 minute like talk through, but is that going to be appeal? Would that appeal to people? Is that going to interest people to watch forms of other people? I mean, of course, we want to learn from other people, but I find it's not as widely interesting. There may be a factor for world archery to consider. Is like is it beneficial for us to watch pro archers critique beginner archers, for example? They need me. And I'm not teasing anything here, but I wouldn't be surprised if in the future we do something. I mean, they've asked me to do like shoot like me, which is a pretty awesome experience. I mean, I wouldn't mind working with World Archery directly. They invited me as a community contributor to make a video for shoot like me. They didn't work with me in filming it, but I filmed it and I made it myself. So. That was more of a request rather than a collaborative project. But it'd be interesting to see if anything happens in the future. I would imagine, like, it's any first step. I've got to shoot competently. I shoot like crap at the moment. I've never really broken past that, so I need to be more serious with my archery before I do anything else with world archery, I reckon. Not a requirement, but it'd be nice, if I actually shot records. Mm. I've really done it backwards, right? So, like, what archery is doing, it's like you have like world champions become like ambassadors. Yeah, like Rob Smith said, I'm like the ambassador first, and then I become a decent archer second. So I'm doing this completely backwards. Oh, that's hilarious. Mm, mm. Sorry, Guillermo, you made a point there. I suggest to one of our national team archers that's in my club to submit a video. Yes, I agree. Actually, yeah. So if someone who's actually shooting at national level would actually really benefit from this, I think, because I feel like, for example, for me, if a top level archer or a national level archer sends me a video, like I've had people who are national team from Australia at least send me videos, and all I can say is keep doing what you're doing. And I might pick out a few things. I mean, like coach's insight and experience will show you very particular things. I think one of my favorites was not the last form check group, but the one before that, number 7. I think I was critiquing a national youth archer. I know she's national. She's wearing an Australian uniform, and I've seen her before. So she's like national youth level to some extent, and like she is. Look, to be plainly honest, she's a much better archer than me. Her process is much cleaner. She scores much higher. She's national level. I'm scraping like basic intermediate level, and she's probably shooting gold level or grandmaster level. So it feels weird for me to give feedback to someone who's better than me. All right, I'm sorry about that. That's my alarm clock. Like it feels weird for me to give feedback to someone who's obviously better than me. I mean, as archers, we all learn from each other, so we have understanding like pride isn't a thing here, right? However, I am Asian, and part of the culture is that we have a seniority. So I actually greatly respect people who outrank me, who shoot better than me, and have more experience than me. So I generally don't question people with more experience. This may sound kind of weird to you, but to me, I actually look up to my elders. I look up to my seniors, so I don't question like what they do or the decision. I should, given that we're in a Western democracy, but culturally, I'm not inclined to. So it feels weird for me to give advice to a higher rank archer or someone who's proven to be a better archer. Until I reach the point where I'm actually good, I can't judge people better than me. I think that's my bench line, my baseline for form checks. So someone who is national level to get feedback from a pro level, I think that's probably the best optimal level of disparity. Someone who is world level, someone who is national level. The national shooter has potential to be a world level shooter with some input, and maybe that the current coach can't give them that input, or maybe they've run to a dead end and need some extra insight. That I think is going to be the sweet spot. So I agree with your point, Guillermo. If you can get like your national team shooter from your club to send a video, I'd be interested in learning from that because I can see what a top level person does, but I also find out what the top level person isn't doing. And therefore, the pro archers can point out what they would do differently or what they would do better. Mm. Um, Sorry, reading comments. No, I agree, Glenn. Absolutely, yeah. Like there are very few sports where we have this kind of like this porous line between top level shooters and the layman. Like, look, literally, like I have in my very limited archery career, like I haven't competed in any national event, let alone anything above that. I've encountered in person two Olympians, right? Um, Alec Potts, who shoots in Melbourne, he's a bronze medalist, and there's a guy from South Africa. I went to a coaching course with him. He did to do his level one, the certification in Australia, and he was a South African Olympian. It's funny, I didn't realize who he was. I didn't recognize him because he was talking. We were talking about Brady Ellison, and he was saying how he was watching Brady Ellison at the Olympic Games, and it didn't occur to me that he was literally behind him watching him shoot. It wasn't like talking about on TV. He was actually behind him watching him shoot, which I thought was quite funny. But yeah, I think Glover makes a point there. Like having this access on an online format is kind of unique because, again, these are the people involved are people who could potentially sit back and chill, and you would talk to and learn from. Then these are people who might go back to their own archery club and just be a regular shooter. I mean, you have like other sports like basketball where the really good players, um, like the really good players, are like gods among mere mortals, and it isn't the same. Whereas in archery, someone might your local pro shop owner who shoots at the local club might compete at the World Cup, then come back the next week and just be the same old guy. A lot of people have this background in some way, so you're right. I think there is like a level of transparency, and it's more transferable. More people who shoot at high level mingle more. I think this is part of the beauty of an amateur sport. Our sport is primarily amateur, not like fully professionalized and high competitive. People who will shoot regularly in their club or around mini clubs, and people know who they are, and therefore when they reach top level, they are like they haven't changed from these grassroots. I think golf is very similar too. Whereas other sports we have professional circuits, the pro circuit is very distinct from the amateurs. Golf, I think, is a bit more porous again because you have pro am tournaments, and all the majors in golf have amateur divisions. So there are amateurs. Obviously, they don't win, but you have like people who might play golf at top level, then go play golf at the local club again. So yeah, it's interesting. Observation from Guillermo. I agree with that too. Libertine, did my passion for archery teach any life lessons? Yes. This is one of the questions from the last stream too. The big part from archery that I've learned is process. Process is key. I mean, I learned about process in two different ways. One is learning about business. I used to watch a TV series called The Prophet, starring Marcus Lemonis, and he comes with three P's: there's people, process, and product. And basically, like you need all three. But often, what's broken, you have good people, you have good product, but you don't have a good process. So I learned from a business mentality that process is exceptionally important because if your process is broken, you don't get a good end product. It's the bottleneck. That's one thing that taught me about process. So when I teach people at school, I teach them process. This is before archery. So process gives you a product. People think product is important. No, your product's fine. Your process is broken. Everything from solving maths equations to the scientific method to writing an essay, all these things follow a process. If you don't follow the process, then you can't guarantee a good end product. That's the first thing I learned with process. Archery, by extension, it's all about process. And while business and archery are completely different things, they both follow processes, right? It's actually a really interesting revelation that as an archer, it's not about the end product where you shoot the bullseye, you shoot the goal. It's not about that. It's about having a consistent, repeatable process, which you can pull off consistently every single time. That understanding of process is reinforced in my life. Understanding that it's not about a one-off result. It's not about a lucky break or a fluke. It's about consistency and repeatability. Sure, I might be able to clutch one match. I might be able to pull off like a bit of work by doing an all-nighter. But can I repeat that? Can I do that all the time? If I can't do it all the time, then that result, that achievement is an outlier. And for me, that isn't interesting enough for me. If I might, a lot of people who know me kind of like question kind of my emphasis on achievement. Like people say, "Oh, you did this. You know, you should be really proud." For me, if I didn't feel like I can do it again, then I don't feel proud. For me, an achievement is I've reached the competency, the level where I can do this all the time or most of the time, not do it once. Imagine playing a song. Like I used to play piano, and like playing like a perfect recording or a perfect piece once is a milestone. But to me, it's not an achievement. The achievement is when you reach a level when you play it perfectly all the time, on demand, on stage. That's different. Anyway, so we've gone off track here, but that was my initial thoughts on the project from World Archery. I think most of us in the chat will agree. It's quite an interesting project. Very curious to see where this goes in the future. So yeah, what are your thoughts, people? What do you think about this Coach Me program? Are you interested in getting your video checked out? I'm really curious. So post your comments below. Let this be a nice forum, even if World Archer doesn't like watch the entire 1 hour video. At least actually see the comments too. It's nice to be a sounding board to echo what World Archery is doing, because not everyone watches World Archery's social media. So do check it out. I'll put the link in the video description already. But I would like to know what you think about this program. Anyway, this is NUSensei. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time.